conversation. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you can catch me here. You can catch me once a month hosting conversations for fathers and dads that are co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And it's the only broadcast that Dove Men Care sponsors for fathers and men in the world. So that is a cool thing. Also, I'm recent recipient of 2 awards in the last 2 years given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. This year I received the Internet News Award, and in 2018 I received the Innovation Award. And it is a Thursday evening, December 10th. The year is winding down and people are already joining in. So they're already they're waiting for these ladies to come on. Like they're like, we are a little bit late today, and they're getting messages. Jill Jones getting messages. Are you guys coming on, or what's the story? Let's get your act together. So let me bring on the real stars of the show. Not me, them. They're the real stars of the show. Jill Jones, Aisha K, Staggers on Staggers State of Things.
Staggers, daggers.
Look at this. I mean, people are like jumping on like, oh my, this is good. Black Beauty says, yep. Says, yep. How we doing, ladies?
Good. Hanging in there.
Good.
Yeah. Good to
Fair
hear.
to Midland. Fair to Midland.
Yeah, I guess COVID is locking down Cali pretty serious, eh, Jill?
Yeah, I mean, we had 78,000 cases in the last 72 hours. And,
wow.
You know, people are just dropping like flies. We have no more ICUs, basically. What? I know that up in Sacramento, they've opened up a stadium. I haven't seen that advertised so much, but my friend called and told me. So I'm assuming they'll probably start doing it down here. Wow. It's bad. It's very bad. Worse than it's ever been.
Well, we'll get to it later on in our conversation. Believe it or not, there is 1 or 2 things going on in America these days. So let's I see.
Always. After the inauguration, we're just going to do one show where we just sit here and decompress like,
I know.
Now, one of the things we've talked about over the last weeks, and I told the ladies, I'm not going to believe there's a change of president till I see it. And this is our first, has to do with our first conversation topic. 18 states plus 109 Republican Congress members signing on to challenge the election and void the electoral votes. Is this ever going to finish?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. And the reason I say yes, it is because this is foolishness. This is foolishness started by the Texas AG, who is doing all of this just because he wants a pardon from Trump. Okay, let's be very clear. He wants a pardon, and he's trying to get on Trump's good side. So I guess he figures if he challenges, this, and he gets all these states on board with him. Notice the only states that are on board with him are the states that Trump won, which if you add up their electoral votes, Trump couldn't have won this race anyway, because there weren't enough electoral votes for him to win with those 18 states.
Good point.
What bothers me more than anything is that we have state elections, not a federal election. Every state monitors how its elections are held. Every state has its own laws in terms of how it governs its elections. And if Texas can tell the state of Connecticut how we do our elections, they don't want that smoke, because then we can tell them how they do their elections. These red states are supposed to be states' right states. It's only states' right states when it works in their favor. Basically, what we have here is this situation. They didn't get what they wanted, so now they're throwing a temper tantrum. And they're going to try every little thing that they can to get what they want. And it's not going to work. They lost once with the Supreme Court trying to take it through the Pennsylvania route. So now they're going to try and go this route. And I guess they figured that if they got congressional support in this with those 109 Congress members, Republican Congress members, and that's half of the Republican congressional delegation signing on to this ridiculousness. If they figure if they get them to sign on to it, that's going to force the Supreme Court to even hear this nonsense. They're not going to hear it. It's bull. It's a waste of time, a waste of money, and even worse, you have these nonsensical pundits like Rush Limbaugh then talking about how these 18 states should then talk about seceding from the union. You know what? Go ahead and secede, because the 18 states that there are, Joy Reid tonight showed a map. Those are the ones that depend on states like Connecticut and California
Yeah.
for their money. They wouldn't survive.
And New
So
York
go
and New
ahead.
Jersey region, we all take care of them.
Exactly.
I mean, we know that Mitch McConnell's
Exactly.
state gets 40% of their budget from us, basically. And and wait, I've heard a bunch of people like going, nobody wins an election if they win nobody loses an election if they've won Ohio and Florida. Well, newsflash, it happened to Richard Nixon. Hello. These people are such idiots. It's like they never studied history. And I don't know. I mean, it's just hard to gauge because it's hard to gauge the amount of fealty everyone is paying to Trump, and there is that what this meritless filing is about, because they didn't even get. I've seen cases thrown out of court when the filings are wrong. I would imagine in a lower court. I can't believe that, they put that they wanted to claim the 62 electorates, and it's really 72 that they needed, that all of this, it's all wrong. The way the papers are written, it's like these guys aren't even attorneys. I got to say something. I really think that people just need to start looking at attorneys again, because I find a lot of them to be just a bunch of Shylocks. Personally, and just con men anyway. But I think now we know they're sitting in our government and they are sitting and holding positions of office. My biggest argument, I think Aisha and I were tweeting today, and I was like, I want to see some kind of action to deal with seditious behavior. I think that we failed miserably during they didn't take care of it quickly enough during the Civil War, and I think that this time it needs to be nipped in the bud. The biggest problem is who deals with it, because everybody's so corrupt, and that's what's so frighteningly horrible about our country. And what's really, really sad is that we keep talking about, oh, we're going down. We're already down. I mean, the world is really horrified at what's happening, even with this little window of time. And a lot of the countries have moved on, and they laugh at us and they make jokes. And particularly they see Trump as a very, he's going to be around even if they let him go. I know they said Biden wasn't convinced that he wants to pursue anything, but this is how messed up we are. Here we are all saying, is Biden going to press charges against him? It's a proper DOJ would do it. It has nothing to do with the president. It's your Department of Justice. It's them. We've gotten so screwed up with everything.
Speaking of which, you mentioned the DOJ. It seems that Mr. Barr and 45 aren't on good terms recently.
Well, I think they're on better terms now that they're trying to do this investigation into Joe Biden, and that came directly
Hunter
from
Biden.
Barr. I'm sorry, Hunter Biden. That came directly from Barr, and that is honestly directly a William Barr direction. I mean, that obviously has something to do. The moment I heard that, I was like, okay, Bill Barr is trying to make nice with Donald Trump, because he might himself need a pardon. But
Bill Barr is the Salome of the
yeah,
administration.
yeah,
He went and got Hunter Biden's head. That's what he's going to do, and
yeah,
that's what he thought, And as far as Paxton from Texas with his stupid lawsuit, telling every other state and looking and wants to double check, he's the freaking Gladys Kravitz of the freaking Texas AGs. He is no different than Gladys Kravitz from Bewitched, who was always snooping in people's windows
yeah.
and telling them what to do.
You
Meanwhile,
know,
when you
But
go,
now, Jill,
but
you know, there's going to be a sector of audience that have no idea what you're talking about.
they
You
don't
know,
know because I know I'm
no,
an old bird, but
I know
I'm
you're
but
telling
not.
but let's be clear about what he wants with what the Texas AG wants to do.
Yes.
Remember, all these AGs that have signed on to this, they're suing Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and are they suing Georgia? I
yeah,
believe
I
they're
think
suing
Georgia's
Georgia.
involved too. There's
They're
all
suing Georgia.
four.
They're suing Georgia. So they're suing those four, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they're not suing the entire state. They're
No.
suing specific districts where just black and brown people
Mm.
voted. So they're
Because
trying to
tell the thing that Lindsey Graham
invalidate
said.
those.
That's the killer.
Yeah,
Tell the Lindsey Graham part.
yes. They're trying to invalidate the votes of the black and brown people. And that goes back to what Lindsey Graham had said that time. Well, if you're black and you vote with us, you're cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your vote is good. But if you don't, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
So
So
they're
who's the
trying to
dictator?
invalidate. Yeah,
KKK member. It's
yeah,
so funny because everybody was like, Jill, why are you so upset at like Ice Cube and Kanye and all of them? And I won't say and repeat what I said in my house, but my close friends know. See, that whole part of the Kabuki theater was to set it up like this is how black people are, and this is where they resonate, where they vibrate. I don't fucking vibrate to Lil Wayne. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm like, I don't give a damn what Ice Cube or Kanye or any of them do. And that is where they are rich people first, and then they're black. And when the white people want to take their money, then they'll just be like, oh, you're black and you don't deserve this. That's how that'll play
right.
out in the hierarchy. There's still, a lot of, but I'm just a regular black person. And as most of my friends, we don't vote for Donald Trump and people of color. There were Native American. I mean, this is how, I mean, this had nothing to do with the love for Biden. It had everything to do with the hatred for Trump. That's what this election was.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to split hairs about that. People hated him so much, they got up off their sofas, they got the mail ins, they did whatever it took to be there. Folks rode in on horseback.
Yeah,
The Asian community, he needs to really be shocked at because they turned up and turned out and
yeah,
knocked his socks off in places where they're all still sitting around going, huh? Natives, Asians, they tried everything short of roadblocks, short of like, buzzards coming down and attacking us from the skies while we were walking out the door. That's where they are. And they got shook because they were not checking their blind spots. We blindsided them. I got to tell you, when I got phone calls about the Republican Party, for Trump, I would lie and say, yeah, I got it. Because I knew how those people were on those phone
Mm.
banks. Just do that. Throw them a bone.
So
Didn't
Black
change
Beauty
my
is
vote.
saying the pandemic has made us aware just how corrupt our government is. Well, I don't think it should have took the pandemic to make that aware, but that's a whole other
well,
conversation.
but yeah, but she's right though, because we had to slow down and watch it, and it's like everything. Not only that, but we finally had a president who did all the dirt out in the open. He
Yeah.
was too stupid to do it behind closed doors. It's like he
Yeah.
didn't even know how not to get caught. Okay, that's how dumb he is. He doesn't even know how not to get caught. He does it out in the open, thinking that, oh, this way I'm smarter than everybody else. So if I do it this way, no one's gonna know. And it's like, you just told us what you did. You
Yeah.
just told us what you did.
He snitches on himself, and only his stupid followers believe his lies. I mean, they believe it because he's a reflection of who they are. I mean, I told you guys, I posted something today with comparing Trump, to Osama bin Laden. In fact, I've now started calling Donald Trump Donald Osama bin Laden Trump, because in
Okay.
history will not be kind to either one of those. Like when you go in and punch in evil, those pictures, the most evil people in this country or that did any damage, later on, kids are on the moon doing their homework, and those two will be poster children for it. They're cut from the same cloth. They're both rich kids, as Aisha pointed out earlier to me. Both had horrible fathers. Both had the Messiah complex. Both of them were entitled,
Multiple
spoiled,
wives,
brat, multiple wives. It's the
multiple
same
children.
dysfunction, narcissistic bullshit. And they're the same. And this whole lack of, and then you have people waiting on you hand and foot, and lemmings that never see a fault with anything you're doing. You see, human beings cannot live with that kind of adulation. It normally would kill a regular person to have that. Someone like Prince couldn't deal with that. It ended up isolating him because he was like, what's real? What is real? But no, people like Donald Trump, on the other hand, they thrive on it. That's the sickness of it. That's somebody who doesn't care about people dying, never really even mentioned the people who died. That's the craziest thing, Dr. Vibe and Aisha. He does not address their deaths. He has
No.
casually been like, it is what it is. But he's no different, because if we had all this outpouring in New York during 9/11, which I was there when it happened, and I've spoken about people that, I knew on, affected by this, and the outpouring, like, oh my God, this was so awful, and the whole nation came together. But Donald Trump stayed consistent, because all he talked about was that he had the tallest building. Like, that was the one
I
exclusionary thing for me, why I would have never voted for him, just because dealing with that madness of these jets flying over you, being locked
yeah.
down in your house, was terrifying. And the one brilliant, crazy pazzo thing that this guy says is, I've got the tallest building in New York now. It was so out of, like, it was like, wow, but he showed who he was. He never changed. So for me, I'm just sickened. And for me, he and Osama bin Laden are exactly the identical person. They are the same, and we should treat them as the same. The only reason people were hesitant with my post is because we're so used to vilifying brown-skinned people, and the Arabs, and the sand such and suches, and the this and the that, and the Asians, and the everybody
well,
is always a motherfucker when they're a person of color. But the minute a white person is doing it blatantly in your face, oh no,
well,
Jill, I think you went too far. No, this man is heinous. I just saw the statistics have come out that the deaths in Afghanistan from 2016, granted at the end, okay, we had some activity in Afghanistan, but 2017, 2018, 2019, it tripled. The deaths of civilians tripled by 330%. I told everybody it's going to come out. That fool has been bombing the hell out of people, and nobody knew, because all of our chain of command and how we were reporting things that normally happened in our government. We didn't have that. Oh, y'all going to find some old bones somewhere. This bitch has a lot of them. Sorry for my language today, but he
no.
does. And it's going to horrify people when they finally realize what he's done.
I'm going to say this, and people might get upset with it. I don't care, because I'm at this point where we have to stop doing this as a society. Jill's right. What Jill said about Trump and comparing him to Osama bin Laden is right. We have to stop saying things like, no one can be worse than Osama bin Laden. We have to stop saying that no one can be worse than Adolf Hitler. There are going to come people who are comparatively the same because
Mhm.
evil works that way. There are going to be people who are comparatively evil. When you have 280,000 bodies on your back, what else, who else do you compare it to? You
Exactly.
don't you don't compare it to Martin Luther King.
We didn't
You
even
don't
kill
compare it
that
to
many
Harriet
people in
Tubman.
Nagasaki or Hiroshima. Let's be honest. We only
Yeah.
118, not that only, but I'm saying when you really want to look at a deep dive or the qualitative or the quantitative numbers and you want to make a comparison, I mean, America is not, Little Miss Perfect. But when you look at what we've done and bringing it all current, by far, Trump is the poster child of in evil incarnate at the moment. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's not a problem. The one person that they have no problem comparing Trump to is Jim Jones, and that's because Jim Jones' victims were mostly
We're
black,
black. Thank you.
and people have no problem comparing him to Jim Jones.
Right.
But they won't compare him to other people who've done evil whose victims were mostly white. And when you sit and you think about this and think about this really good. Trump's victims, the obvious victims, are black and brown.
Yes.
The most victims are white because
Yeah.
he's brainwashing them. He's stealing from them. He's taking their money and he's using their money to bail himself out. He's using their money to fund his next big venture, his next big business venture. He's using their money for legal fees. These people don't have a pot to piss in. These people are unemployed. These people can't go to work. These people are spending what little bit of unemployment insurance they get, if they get it. And they are giving it to a crook, to a man who proclaims to be a billionaire. These people are giving this man everything. 74 million people. 74 million people he is victimizing.
But what's
They
really
are
worse,
white.
they are white, but what's even more kind of disgusting would be the ones who do have a pot to piss in, do have money, like the Goya guy and the
Yeah.
pillow guy, all of those people who are actually making conscious decisions
Yeah.
to join up because they're leveraging themselves and paying fealty because they want something in the long run. And it says a lot more about their character, less lives. I used to think he had things on people, but sometimes now I'm just thinking they are
Yeah.
the same swarm of the swamp. They're the same. And that is, there's just a lot of wreckage with those people. So you're absolutely right. But there are people who are making conscious decisions. And then there are people who are exactly like Osama bin Laden's followers, the jihadists. It's the same thing. Trump's followers are jihadists. They've been radicalized. They
Yep.
think the same way. They think of the same results as the same way. Death to the Democrats. It's the same thing. They've already divided the nation as if we don't belong in the same country. He never has cared about my well-being as a Democrat, yours, or anybody else. He always kept that boundary. So it's like, bitch, fuck you.
Though the
I wouldn't
question is
step
always going
down
to
if
be,
you. No, you know what? It's at the point where some of us, they're acting like this is the UK with Scotland and Ireland and England. But let me tell you something. They don't want to see this because this ain't your mama's revolution. Okay? This ain't Miss Mamie sitting on the plantation waving and drinking a mint julep because this will be off the hook.
Okay,
Now,
and
I
this
just
is,
I'm
wanted to just
sorry. I don't want to say that
I
anymore.
just
I'm
want to
not
interrupt.
inciting violence, but we
I
have
just
some
want to
stuff
I
that
want to
black
catch up
folks
with
ain't going to take it,
comments.
or brown folks.
uh,
All right, I'm just going to catch up with comments here. So a while back we mentioned Bewitched, and Real Dangle. That's right, Mrs. Kravitz.
Totally. Mrs. Kravitz.
Okay, Black Beauty. I'm just waiting for them to tie in the 13th Amendment. They never got rid of the 13th Amendment. Real
True.
Django, my disdain for 45 runs deep, and it's mostly because my wife worked for that idiot in the late 80s.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
That's a
Uh,
story I'm gonna get. I'm
okay,
gonna get
Black
that
Beauty
story.
again. Trump, 45, and Kushner didn't even order enough vaccines for our citizens.
They
No,
Uh,
turned
they'll
down that.
start.
We're gonna get to that part, but
okay.
just remember
Yeah,
they turned them
Real
down.
Django says 45 traits of a sociopath. And then
absolutely.
Black Beauty says they're all psychopaths. Bin Laden, Hitler, and yes, 45 and company. They love inflicting chaos and pain.
They do. They
Well,
do.
well, here's the thing. I've never seen anything like this.
Excuse
I've
me.
never seen anyone work so hard to keep a job that they're just not doing. It's like he's never worked harder in the last 4 years than he's worked the last month.
I
He's
don't think
worked
he's
harder.
ever really worked. I think he's always just seen himself as a front person, and he hires the architects, he's hired the designers. I don't think he knows a damn thing about
No,
design
I
or
I
cares
honestly
about it.
think that I think that when he thought that he would come into office, he would tell the vice president, let the vice president do the governing, and he would just be the figurehead. But here's the thing: he's worked more in a month trying to overturn this election than he worked the whole 4 years he was in
It's
office.
true.
And it's like, but the country is still you're still president now. You still have a job to do now.
He's
You're not doing
abdicated
the
his
job
duties.
now. Yeah, he has. And for this reason, it's like at this point, he could be impeached again and removed. It's like at this point, skip the impeachment. You already impeached him for basically the same reason that he's not doing the job now. At this point, just vote to remove him.
Right.
Just vote to
I
remove him.
mean, I know that there has been some talk that they said that more people are buying guns than gifts for Christmas, and that
Yeah.
people need to. This is from like a
But
security
these are people
FBI guy.
but
He's
these are
saying
people
they
on the
see
right.
it. Yes, and they are saying that they are very concerned because they do believe that these are dog whistles, that all he has to do is say go, and they are definitely anticipating something and want the public to really just stay awake, because
Oh my.
this is not going to
Oh
just
my.
miraculously
Which
go, okay, you won, bye, see you later at the
right,
playground.
which it might be in our best interest that they didn't order enough vaccine, and that it might take us into the summertime of next year to have to get the vaccine for maybe some of this to settle down, because he's not going to go away. Let's be clear about this. Even after Joe Biden is sworn in, Trump is not going to go away. He's going to start doing um, rallies.
All
He's
sorts of
going to do.
underhanded
He's going to
stuff. Yeah.
he's going to do more rallies. He's going to start showing up on Newsmax all the time, because he's given up on Fox. He's going to be on Newsmax all the time, and he's going to be talking, and he's going to be talking. He's going to start giving speeches and getting paid to do those speeches. And he's really going to everything that Joe Biden does. Joe Biden does a speech. You know who's going to do a counter
Right.
speech? Donald Trump. He's
Well,
going to put
I
himself
want
in the
Joe to
mix.
do, I want Joe to go bungee jumping so that guy, so somebody can just,
All
so it's
right. The
not
real
him.
Django is saying Aisha, exactly Aisha. He hasn't done
No.
anything right. He's not the guy who can push healthcare, but he'll say over and over again that he has healthcare and it's coming.
I mean, here's the other
Republicans
really
have had
crazy side. You have Republicans who
There
really,
he goes. Like that, he'll go away once Pookie and Ray Ray get
yeah.
close enough.
I mean, the problem is that each state after this really needs to take a look at the way they're structured and deal with those AGs. I would rather say that for seditious behavior, whatever the rules are, if you can impeach them or get them out of their position, that it would be worth doing so once Biden is in, to just move along and get them gone, because we cannot continue to have people trying to overthrow the government. It's just not that means that people will do anything. And if it was just regular people doing this, we would have been locked up. They locked up the Black Panthers. They locked up the SLA. They've locked up everybody else who even spoke out about some of this, even in jest with the freedom of speech. But these asses get to stay as AGs. So excuse me, I've been around long enough to remember. The millennials may not, and Gen X may not, but I remember. So you can't tell me that the guys from the Weather Report and everything else who were charged for those behaviors of sedition, and you're going to say that these people, just because they're politicians, get the protection? That's wrong. That's wrong.
No, I looked it up, Jill, after you and I talked about it on Twitter. Here's the missing part is, and this is why they're getting away with it. All of those states included in that section 4 and section 5 protection, either 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 protection of the Voting Rights Act. All those states fell under that, so that they could not do this kind of thing. And when they stripped those sections from the Voting Rights Act, those were those states that had federal oversight, because typically they disenfranchised Black and brown voters.
Right.
And those were the states that had had some kind of poll tax, test, or some way of disenfranchising Black and brown voters. Those when they stripped those sections out of the Voting Rights Act, it allowed those AGs free reign to be able to do what they're doing.
Well, then we need to change that.
They need to fully restore the VRA.
But wouldn't it still be under the headline of even seditious conspiracy, because they've all come together? I mean, maybe not for just straight up treason, seditious, sedition, but the conspiracy of it is that they're all coming together. But I mean, you're probably right. And hopefully our Supreme Court will, they've been dragging old Amy Coney Barrett like crazy. I mean, I'm actually feeling sorry for old girl, because, it's they are a trip. These people are scary. They're scary.
Yeah, the one light is that they have filed some papers to they filed, I don't know if it's a brief or what it is, but it's something that amounts to kind of a countersuit. Because
the Democrats did. The Democrats.
Yeah, they did. Right. Yeah, they did, because you just can't get away. You can't get away with doing this. If the law says that the law is very clear. States are in charge of their own elections.
True. I mean, for some reason, they're like, do they not know how the republic works? It's really, I'm actually thinking that they all need to be taking tests before they become in government. No, I actually, honestly, I know we're laughing, but I don't think they understand their jobs. And for Lindsey Graham to sit up there and play that game that if you voted for Trump because they're trying to say all Black people supported Trump. No, baby. No. Miss Jinju, no. Lady G,
doesn't that fall like under like the 10th Amendment or something like that? Because wouldn't if they were the bottom line is this: they think that they're going to get it to the Supreme Court. Even if they got to the Supreme Court would have to. They'd have no choice but to turn it down. Because by law, that is in the Constitution of the United States, that the states are able to govern their own elections.
But yet again, I found it really odd that it all kind of blew up like this right around another really small story came out about the border and them and Trump, when they're building the border wall, that they use Mexican guards that they brought in across the border to protect the wall. and that all of the activities that were going on at nighttime at the border walls along the whole thing, where there's no real wall anymore, by the way, it's not even
Right.
built, that there were cranes and different pieces of construction that was blocking the camera's view. So were they smuggling drugs? I mean, it's
I don't
kind of
know.
like, was he smuggling drugs? We did have a serious fentanyl issue going on in 2017 and even before, but what was going on? Because that story, we need more investigation, and we need to know what was going on at the border, aside from stealing kids,
I'm gonna jump
probably
in. I'm
trafficking
gonna
and
jump
whatever.
in, ladies. We got a lot more to discuss, so we
Okay.
better get to it. Just before we go further, your
But
Black
before
Beauty
you do
says,
that, I wanted to say one more thing. Keep your eye on this space, because the one thing you need to take away from it is that the Texas AG is under federal investigation. He initiated this because he's under federal investigation and needs a federal pardon.
That makes sense. You're right.
so Black Beauty says, you're right, Aisha. He's only upset because he's losing the ability to take advantage of the opportunity to continue to use his family and cronies to launder money and
Yeah.
hide illegal deeds.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. That's only the first conversation tonight, folks.
Was
So
it?
this is here. Grab it on. Let's get your takes. What's going on with America and COVID?
Well, we had our deadliest day yesterday.
Mhm.
More than 3,000 people died. Yes.
And today too, it's been over 3,000. And so
It's been
again,
But
and
there is
we're
there's a vaccine coming.
But the thing is that what we're seeing right now is the uptick from the Thanksgiving holiday. They said this was going to happen. And what scares me now is that people are going to be more reckless now that they know that there's a vaccine coming. Keep in mind that we don't have enough vaccine to vaccinate 1.5 million people.
Right.
They've got 3 million. They're going to get close to 3 million doses of vaccine between the
2 doses.
three. Yeah,
Right.
and you need 2
I mean,
doses. So that's 1.5 million people that are going to be able to be vaccinated, and that's between now and April.
right. And so our going into recovery, whereas other countries and everywhere else will have a faster recovery and sort of assimilation and herd like kind of thing where it could die off with 80% of them getting the shots. We will be longer in the long run because he did not want to purchase it. And they were offered the deal back in August, and the administration turned it down.
Hey, a friend has joined us. There she is,
Hi.
Dr.
So,
Tachi.
hey, Dr. Tachi.
Hi, Dr.
So
Tachi.
the problem is that no one really has called him. I mean, there are different people definitely interviewing doctors. It was just, I think, incompetence. And probably he was trying to hedge his bet on another one that he had an investment in, for all we know.
Yeah.
It's like which one, just like he did with the tests as well. And then he got all buck wild when he
Even
found
that.
out that the UK had already started rolling theirs out. And
Yeah.
he's a complete failure. He's a loser. He's a failure, and he's just a walking carcass of just grossness, evil. And he tries to cover it up with nonsense. But the problem with the COVID vaccine, not even the problem, is that we still will be wearing masks. But whereas people by the end of next year in other countries in Europe they might have more back to normal than we will. We might roll ours all the way, I heard, until 2022. The craziest thing is that there's another logistics problem, which is they are working with the Biden transition team about this. However, no one is quite sure how it's being rolled out, where it's being rolled out. We have a situation in Chicago where Chicago Mercy Hospital was shut down, which is pretty crazy in the middle of the pandemic. And it mainly featured, was in a Black area for African American and people of color and in lower income groups, and it closed, and there's nothing else around there. So we're seeing a lot of systemic racism going on inside of this pandemic, whether it comes down to the medical ethics of who's getting treated by Black doctors, versus white doctors, white hospitals versus whoever. Those things actually do make a difference when there's an understanding in a community of people who don't have health care, who've been cut off, who don't have jobs. Somehow this in my head is being perpetuated also on the back end of Trump's madness. And I would not be surprised if he's going around and having boards shut down and doing all this craziness. There are people now in Chicago who do not have a hospital. So the rollouts, how has the Trump, they can't even respond like, so who in your society is getting it first? How are you dividing this up? Are you going to go to we know people of color are being affected the most. Are you going to take the shots there after you go to the old folks' homes? But none of that has been decided, where we also know that Trump has this thing about elitist classism, and he's sort of stockpiled, even the stem cell research stuff for his friends.
He's a quid pro
So
quo guy. So
he
he's
is.
going to tell some of his people, if you do me this favor, I'll make sure that you get a vaccine.
I mean, he only likes people
he's
who
going
are
to do that.
rich or who are famous, and it's not even about liking them. It's just transactional relationships. Trump doesn't have friends; they're transactions. So
Yeah.
everything is like a shiny gold nickel. Kim Kardashian, oh, whatever. He doesn't care. He said she was fat like a few years before that, and he wouldn't touch anything like that. But then he was like, okay, people like her. I guess I'll say something nice and blah, blah, blah. That is how he is. It's all transactional. And he is doing these horrific transactions with people's lives. And he's been allowed to get away with it. His feet have not been held to the fire. And there's something wrong with anyone who will stand by and support that kind of behavior from anybody. Because I will always keep saying, if this was Barack Obama, even George Bush, and the one thing, George Bush came out to congratulate Joe Biden, and crickets from his party.
No,
the Republican Party,
no Republicans
not the Republican Party. They are the Trump Party. And the ones who keep pretending that they aren't need to go and just put their heads in the sand again. The party is dead. It should never, even after this, we should destroy it, and no one should ever use that word again.
Yeah.
Republican.
You remember how
nothing. It should be a nothing word.
You remember how
you should have a big red mark in every dictionary in the world when you go on. It should just be scratched with like claw marks.
Go ahead, Aisha. Go ahead.
You remember how people got really upset after Dick Cheney had that second or third heart transplant?
Yeah.
And the reason that he got it was because he was vice president. That's the same kind of thing, okay? And Trump, like, for Chris Christie, who's the black guy?
Carson.
Ben Carson. Ben Carson. I had to remember. It's not the one that died. Ben Carson and Rudy Giuliani to come out and say that they got the treatment that no one else is getting.
Regeneron.
It hasn't even
$1 million.
It hasn't even been. Yeah, it hasn't even been cleared yet. Okay.
Oh boy.
It hasn't even been cleared.
And they're using it on very, very specific cases, and it's where the doctors have to make serious. There's a lottery for it in one city. A lottery. Yeah, they have a lottery.
That they have a lottery,
it's like you have to have out of a hat.
Yeah, but you have to have certain. You have to be like near death to be getting these kind of drugs and this treatment. And Rudy Giuliani is so flippant today, talking about, oh, well, I got the treatment for COVID. Everyone should be able to get the treatment. Nobody should be dying from it. It's like, dude, you got special treatment. And then he says, well, yeah, if you're a celebrity, they want to take you to the hospital right away because you're a celebrity.
And they're giving it to them right away. They're getting premier care. And who is Rudy Giuliani? It's like, I don't know.
He's
Maybe
Trump's
they stuffed
he's
him all
Trump's
with
attorney.
Yeah, he
And
is.
he's Trump's attorney. That's why he got
Although
it
he's got
right
a new
away.
attorney, though, too. Don't forget the new attorney who's doing the birther thing with Kamala and saying that she wasn't born in America. We have a new
Oh yeah,
attorney pulling that crap who did it with Obama. They brought him back on the scene. I mean, do people
yeah.
like this ever die? I mean, I'm just like, I'm just like, are they immortal? I'm really like,
Oh
sometimes I
my
go,
gosh.
God, what is it? I mean, it's really makes people
No,
question.
yeah.
Oh
But
I
my
don't get it.
they're gonna.
goodness.
But because they've done this with this treatment, the ethics um around the vaccine are going to be questionable, and because states are going to be in charge of the vaccine
And the
rollout.
class
That
system
that is the
and a
problem.
limited
If
supply, right?
in a limited supply. Now, if these states were getting this vaccine after the 20th of January, we would know that the Biden team would at least have a coordinated system of rollout. They would have the CDC tell the states how to administer it, who to get it first. But now, the way the Trump system works is that it's not a system. They're letting the states decide how to do it. So you've
But
got
he did that with the
50 different,
ventilators, remember? We all had
exactly.
to like a
You
lottery, like we had to
right,
bid. My
right,
governor bid on ventilators and finally bought them from another country
right, right.
online too. They
And
had to
so
do
and
bids like
so
on eBay.
right. So
Disgusting.
there's gonna be 50 different ways of to how to distribute this vaccine. And it's going it there are going to be gross inequities no matter where you go.
Hmm.
There's
Gross.
no way it's going to be equitable, and that's going to be a big problem.
Hmm.
Very.
Well, let's tie on another subject along with COVID, the continuing talks for a stimulus package. Will, I keep on asking every week, ladies, is there ever going to be one?
I don't think so. I really don't think
I
so.
I don't think so. Nancy Pelosi's talking about bringing Congress back in
Christmas.
the day after Christmas. But here's my thing: Congress isn't the problem; it's the
They're
Senate.
not. It's the
And
Senate.
my thing is this: you won't have anything done on the on that bill until after January 20th.
It's Mitch
Because here's the
McConnell.
thing: even if you do even if on January 6th, even if on January 6th and Ossoff and Warnock do win, the tiebreaker ends up being Mike Pence. So until January 20th, we got to just hold tight until the new administration sworn in.
But there'll be no tiebreaker because Georgia's going to save America.
Hmm.
But there'll still be a tiebreaker because there'll be 50-50.
Well, then that makes no sense. Then why are we doing it?
Because Kamala will be the tiebreaker
Oh, right. After that point, yes, of
after
course. Got it.
that point.
Right.
But it doesn't. But up until then, they'll be sworn in January 6th.
Hmm.
But
Okay, we got just a technical issue that Aisha, she should be back in just a moment.
Right.
Okay, so what we're going to do while Aisha is frozen for a moment, what I'm going to do, okay, so we're going to have her come back, log back in. So Jill,
Yeah.
so you seem pretty definite that you feel that there are not going to be any stimulus packages.
No. And, it's like, I know that Bernie Sanders already said that now they want to just give people straight up $600 and get rid of the unemployment part of it, where there's sort of a weekly or bi-weekly amount of $300 or 400 or whatever, because they had the audacity to say, we don't want people to get used to it. As somebody, I have to bite my tongue on that because they better be thankful that I wasn't a waitress at a restaurant. I've said it before. No, for real. That was the most disgusting thing that I think I could possibly hear. They're so smug. They're so elitist. It is the Republicans, the GOP. They are a disgusting bunch of people. Disgusting. And anyone who supports them is as disgusting as they are. And I'm sorry. I just disgusting, because you have people who are losing their homes, losing their, won't be able to pay their bills, can't pay their mortgage, can't eat, and then have the audacity to be pissed off when they hear people are stealing. I wouldn't lift a finger if I saw somebody stealing anything anymore down in the store or anything, but disgusting Republicans, disgusting to support that just as a human being. I'm not even talking a party. I'm talking the fact that I could just take all that out of it. And you're just people sitting around a table and there's somebody laying on the floor, reaching up, and they're crying, they're begging, and they need to be fed, and their kids and all of this. And Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham.
I know you're going to say something else.
Whoops with his sister, sits up there and they just, no, oh, we don't want you. Who the hell do you think you are breadcrumbing anybody? Today, Anand Girandandos or whatever, I can't ever pronounce his name, went off about what's happening during these sessions. So did Katie Porter. And it's about time, because I have to say that, I know I'm supposed to be love and peace, and it's Advent season. And oh yes, oh my. But it's very interesting that it's Advent season, because in this time, there's a big battle between light and darkness. And I can tell you, if Jesus was being born right now or coming back or whatever, I know what side I'm on. And I'm on the right one, the light. And I know those are the dark ones. And it's so crazy what's going on planetary wise. We've got like another eclipse coming up on the 15th, and on the 21st, on the solstice, there is a conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter that moves us straight into Aquarius. We have been in Capricorn all year, guys. Capricorn is suffering. Like, Capricorn is karma. Capricorn is like calling you to the table, like, okay, what are you doing? So it's time to upload and reset. And I get that, but I cannot handle it, because it really messes with my spirit to know that these monsters are walking the planet and people are not going to have money and they cannot eat. These are little kids in there, and it makes them even more vulnerable to disease and illness. And if somebody can't afford their insulin, they can't afford their medication, just regular stuff, how are they going to go into a hospital that's booked with COVID patients where the ICUs are completely full? Like, somebody made a comment today, like, don't have a heart attack, because it's really true. It's like, we are the United States of America. And I think I would have to say, when I took a trip ages ago in the 70s to Africa, even it was more civilized in how to deal with people. This is something like that. I'm going
to jump in because
it's like a Grimm's fairy tale. It is. It's like the Brothers Grimm.
I'm going to jump back in. We've got Aisha back. Welcome back, Aisha. Also, Black Beauty is saying, let's not forget McConnell stated it will not be approved unless Congress agrees not follow COVID-19 victims to sue for negligence if employers are allowed to be sued.
True. He's a disgusting piece of filth.
Aisha, welcome back.
Yeah. Hello. I had a little issue with my laptop, so I had to revert to my phone.
No problem. We got you back. You got you back. What do you feel the future of the stimulus is? Anything that you want to add?
Like I said, I don't think that it's gonna go anywhere. We won't get any stimulus until we've got Biden-Harris in office.
Right.
So it's interesting too, because the latest unemployment numbers for the U.S. came out today, and they've gone back up. They were higher than the estimate, so more people are out of work again. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the highest weekly total since March.
I don't believe the numbers. I think it's a lie. I don't believe their numbers. There's not an honest person in that administration or any agency that works with Trump. I don't believe it. I think the stock market is a joke. All of it. Because this is a dude who had the audacity to call 18 or 106 different AGs or whatever. You don't think he's going to call the person who puts the form together for about the jobs?
Yeah,
Come on.
I think
I
that
mean, what did I look
I
like
think
yesterday's fool? I
yeah,
don't
I
believe
think
it.
we are in for a really rude awakening come
Rude.
the first quarter of the year of the new year, um, when the Biden Harris administration takes effect. I think our oversight is going to come out with a lot of stuff, just letting us know how bad things really are, economically. We're not. I think that we are probably 3 times worse in shape than we think we are.
I agree.
Um, because, for
There's no
example,
checks and
when it comes
balances
to
in
the
our
death,
three. We have right. Where's our checks and balances with our three
well, look at our death rate.
agencies?
Look at
Right.
our death rate of COVID cases. That's not even the right death rate, because remember
He does took it away.
back in May, Trump said that he was going to take over and have the CDC report to him. For all the states weren't going to report to the CDC.
Right.
They were
Johns
going to start
Hopkins is kind
reporting.
of
They were going to start
calculating this.
reporting directly to Health and Human Services, and that his office was going
Right.
to put out what the numbers were. So we know that they were trying to skew those and not tell us the actual truth, so it didn't look that bad.
Right.
So while 280,000 looks bad now, it's
290. We're at
probably, it's
290
probably, I'm
now.
sorry, 290,000 looks bad now. It's probably well over 300,000,
I agree.
close to 400,000,
Right.
because they didn't want to tell. And remember, part of what they did was to take out those people who had COVID, COVID, but died from other illnesses that like people that had heart disease,
Right.
but also had COVID, and said,
Right.
"Oh, let's take those people out of the
Out of
equation
the
because
equation, they did.
they had comorbidities. Let's take
Right.
those things out of the
I mean,
equation,
who doesn't
even
have a
though the
comorbidity in
COVID
America?
exacerbated, even though
I mean, on
they
anything.
hadn't been in the hospital, right? Even though they'd only been in the hospital because of the COVID,
So if
and
you go
so
into the hospital with, a let's say you go in with, you have a heart condition, but then you get pneumonia. What do they write down that you died of? Pneumonia.
they write they're
So they
well,
write down
what they were
pneumonia. But yes, you
trying
had a
to do.
right. But I'm saying this situation is you go in, you have heart disease, you get COVID, but COVID kills you. It wasn't your heart disease that killed you. It didn't matter if you had, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, go in with a cold, it develops into pneumonia. Do you put down that I died of pneumonia or a cold? I mean,
Right.
please
But
enlighten me.
they were trying to manipulate the data and extract that out and say,
Absolutely.
oh, this person had heart disease. So the primary issue was heart disease. COVID was secondary. But no, they've been trying to do the who bang shuffle on this the whole time with
And let's
us
not forget his parties
on
that
these
he's
numbers.
having. The parties that he's having, he just continues to want to spread it more and more.
Yeah.
He's an evil bastard, and the whole
Yeah.
point is
And
to
here's the
it's
other
just outright
here's the other
abandon.
reason we're going to keep living. Here's the other reason we're going to keep living stimulus package to stimulus package too. Because we don't have enough people in this country who are willing to sacrifice what is necessary to get us over the hump, to the point that we can get to a point where half of the country is inoculated, so that the rates go down
It
that
needs to
far.
be about 80%, 70 to 80%.
Exactly. We don't have that. People are too people in this country are too selfish. They're like, oh, I want to go out, so I'm going to go out. I don't feel like wearing a mask. I want to see my family. I want to do this. I'm going to do what I want to do. And this goes back to what I said, 2 weeks ago. Remember when I said that white people have too much freedom?
Yeah,
This goes back to that, and people
it
feeling
does.
like, oh, well, to do this, you're infringing upon my freedoms. No, it's infringing. Everybody's freedoms are being infringed upon because everybody is trying to live.
And those are the
You
lawsuits
have
that
to make
people
a
are afraid
sacrifice.
of.
Exactly. It takes living takes a sacrifice. I think one of the things that we take for granted in this country that people don't in other countries is having to make a personal sacrifice of any kind for the freedoms that we have.
Well,
We're automatically born with them, and we don't have to sacrifice. We don't have to sacrifice for them. Not all of us, some of us
Well, I don't know.
in
We
this
have
country.
like, I think there's a small amount of like 30% of people in different, in New York, different states that don't even live with with plumbing in their home. There is some
Yeah.
kind of something that's being
Well, that's why I
exposed
said
about
not
this
all of us.
country. There's something about this country that's being revealed about what a sham it's been, about all the things. Because first of all, what's $600 going to do for anybody living in New York or on the ends? You know, it's like, who came up with these numbers? I mean, just
let,
who decided that?
let me just catch up here with comments here. Black Beauty, it's no doubt. It's no doubt higher because America people that work part-time are eligible for unemployment. He's talking about the reports on the jobless in the United States. Uh, Dangle says, I don't believe those numbers either, Jill. I think the numbers have always been inflated under the doofus administration.
So true.
And welcome also to Marvin Lars watching on Facebook. And then also, Real Dangle goes, selfish, ignorant, body people in this country?
Yeah. No, but I mean, we've known about that and we know about it for a long time. It's just interesting that the same patriots that bust out how much sub hatred that they've had for Muslims and want the Muslim ban after 9/11, the same people so upset over 2,971 people who died don't have the same compassion for 290,000 people who've died. So, in my mind, this is all of it based upon white supremacist Dixiecrats who switched over in the back in the day
Republican Party.
in the Republican Party, and this is the mission. It's like it's a cult. It's like they go and sacrifice children, which I'm actually more inclined now to believe that they're the ones doing the abductions and the child sacrifices because they're so obsessed with it. I would almost believe that now, that that's the group, because you know, the rhetoric, the mirroring of what if I said that right now, they turn it around and go, you're always projecting on us. They're psychopathic, they're crazy. They have somebody who works with them that knows how to deal with their crazy lunatics that follow them. But the saddest part of it is we have 74 million racists in this country. That is what the votes told us. If anything they need to be recounting is their soul. They need to recount themselves. And I think we need to take that narrative like, yo, let's just be honest here. Did you vote for him? Bye. These are racists. These are people that you, if you had to discern who you want to be your friend, I think that's like, let's cherry pick the hell out of that. And the actions of the AGs right now, that's a white supremacist authority. That's it. They
But then
said
the
that
other side of
would rise. That's what they want.
but then the other side of it, Jill, is that we have the 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 liberal side of it is that we have some white people who quote unquote are allies who are so eager to connect back with that MAGA side of their family. And this
You have
becomes
to
an issue.
destroy it, but you have to destroy them.
You have to destroy it, but they're so eager to want to forgive and forget and get over. It's like, okay, can we get past this part of,
I
can we get
mean,
past
I
this?
don't know. I don't know. I think, like I said,
And
this
it
is
ends up being
This has been a very
And
exceptional
this
year.
is something that I don't understand. You don't understand. It's very difficult for people to understand when you don't have that kind of division in your family. Black people don't understand this. Sorry, we just
Well,
don't.
I don't
We
know.
don't
If
get
I
it.
had, there are a few black folks that decided to like, go and play, play play that world. But yeah,
But
no,
it's very
I don't know.
few.
I think that there are a lot of people that keep it to themselves, their racism. But the 74 million proved that they exist. They're in jobs. They're occupying things in the community, and they hide it. I think they should make everybody's votes public and everybody's freaking name public. You really want to know who voted for who? Make it public. Just you really, and if you have a dispute and you want to dispute this vote, then be my guest. But I think the vote should be public. Everybody's questioning it. Put it all out there. I have no problem. Put my name up. I don't care. Do it. And
Okay.
then if there's some real discrepancies, you'll hear from me. If not,
But I'll tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this one last thing about the stimulus package, Chip. We're gonna keep needing this stimulus package until we do it right. If you notice, all the countries that have given the proper amount of money to their people in this pandemic, they have lowered the numbers. They've squashed the pandemic to a manageable amount, to where now they're going to get the vaccine, and now they're going to be able to eradicate it in their community, in their
but
country.
Aisha, here's the
Until
interesting. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
no, and until we give people a substantial amount to live on in order to stay home, until we can inoculate everyone, we're not going to be able to get it under control, and we're going to constantly need stimulus after stimulus after stimulus, because just giving people $600, $1,000 a month, it's not going to work.
No, but that's
It's not.
because the reason that it doesn't work is because America's always been hoodwinking its workers. You have such disparity in the wealth gap. And the biggest
Yeah.
problem is that all of these other countries have provisions and cushions that have always been in place for their citizens. Only the stupid Americans here who didn't think we'll muddle through and we'll do that. Even England has it. Germany has it. Germany has a cap where some people have been receiving about the equivalent of close to $6,000,
Yeah.
7,000. But it depends on how much you have paid into just different things. But that's with everything. So why we're all asked out is because we don't pay our fair share either, and we don't get paid well enough. We have people who live, most people don't make any more than $35,000 a year in America. The majority of
True.
people,
It's a
that
good
is it.
point. It's a
So
good
when
point.
this happens and there's no savings, there's nothing in all these other countries. I told you, my friend left Minneapolis. She technically works in Paris remotely. She makes more money. And now even remote workers here in America, the banks decided, let's charge you an extra 3% for us having to
Yeah.
do what? So the problem is that America has fundamentally never been for its citizens. So I get it. Maybe some of the Republican people have already accepted that. They just are so afraid of this socialism. But I'll be damned if I keep having to pay taxes for states that don't vote for people properly and put like rednecks like Mitch McConnell, who married his Chinese wife because she was rich. The man doesn't even look like he even has sex with probably a banana every night. And, so the whole thing is that, I can't support this. We were not
Base,
in a,
we're gonna move. We're gonna move
we
after
weren't
that
in the
comment.
position to have this happen with the money.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you're right, Aisha. You're right. It's gonna be a while.
Let me catch up with some comments here. Melvin Lar says they are experts at deflecting. He also says there are a scary number of black white folks still love their massa more than themselves.
For real though.
Real Django. I voted for Warnock and Ossoff, and I posted a picture of my
Yeah.
absentee ballot filled out on Twitter yesterday.
Awesome.
He also says, I'm proud of
That's
my
the next
vote.
thing they're coming. That's the next thing they're going to come for.
They're gonna come knocking on the door. You voted for who?
No, no. I mean, no. They're coming for the absentee ballots next.
Yeah.
Right. And then Melvin says the vaccine is not a cure, and they've already issued warning that you have allergies, don't take it. Yes, that did come up in England. 2 people had allergic reactions.
Here's the thing.
Couple nurses.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you this. As someone who has severe allergies, okay.
Aisha, before you go further, both of you, Real Django is on fire tonight. Look what he just put up. Okay, so go ahead. I'm not gonna. Oh, you have to watch this to see it. I'm not gonna repeat it verbally.
As someone, who has allergies,
go ahead.
Someone who has allergies, I have to get iron infusions, and I get this really strong iron infusion that they tell you if you have severe allergies, you know, you probably shouldn't get it, but your doctor has to weigh for you the risk. Is it worth, worth getting or not? And my doctor, when I go get it, my doctor gives me Benadryl by IV before I get it. I always carry an EpiPen just in case, and then I get oral Benadryl after I get the infusion, just because I don't want to have a reaction. What they're going to have to figure out for people like me that have allergies that require an EpiPen, if you carry an EpiPen, is how to administer it so that some kind of preparation. Anytime I have to go for anything that you can have an allergic reaction to, like any kind of dye or any kind of thing like that any kind of injection that you can't have something to. They figured out steroids in advance or something like that. So they'll figure this out too. So in the meantime, right now they're like, don't take it, but I'm confident that they'll figure it out.
All right. Okay, let's move to
it's not that hard.
Our last conversation piece. Biden's latest cabinet picks. What are your ladies' thoughts about his picks so far?
I said Susan, what's her face, was going to be back in. Susan.
I knew that much, but Vilsack is the one that gets me, because the black farmers weren't too happy on that, and that right there, that pick right there, really right before Atlanta. Right before, because the Atlanta farmers were the ones who really had issues with him. And so right before this Atlanta election, it really wasn't exactly a good idea. And I think he should have rethought that, or at least got some other advice. I mean, it's like the black farmers got the least amount of money when it came to rebuilding their farms.
Right.
What was it, like $50,000 when compared to other farmers who were getting millions?
Right.
So there were a lot of, and he really fed a lot of inequities, and even Barack Obama criticized his work. So I think that I think it was a poor choice. Thank goodness he still has time to correct it, because no one's been confirmed yet. And I hope that he does take the criticism and does find someone else. I think the guy who is the head of actually the Black Farmers Union is a perfect choice for the Secretary of Agriculture. He had someone else in mind who was a woman. Who was the first woman.
Yes. There was a woman, but he's putting her. Is it in HUD or I can't remember.
Well, Marsha Fudge, that's who it was.
Yes,
Representative Fudge. I thought that she would have been perfect in agriculture. He's going to put her in HUD. I think it's a bad decision, in my opinion. I think he should keep her. I think he should keep her in agriculture, because here's the thing, with agriculture, under agriculture is the USDA. In the USDA are some monies that go towards HUD, also some education funds, that are there because, for example, the school lunch program falls under the Department of Agriculture, not under the Department of Education,
Right.
because it's a USDA program.
Yeah.
And there are other things that fall under there. I think that she would have been better there, and I think that it would be nice to put somebody else. If he wants to like repeat someone under HUD, he's better off putting Castro back over HUD.
Yeah.
If he
Jill,
wants to revisit.
Jill, any comments on the picks so far? Any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I kind of think that, everybody's not going to be happy. We got to watch and see whatever the strategy is. As I know that, there was some leakage of a tape that Biden was on tape saying to a civil rights group recently that he did not want to make defund the police and reform. He wants to approach it cautiously. It will get done. Some people have looked at that as, oh, he's just kind of like pushing it off. But other people are like, thinking maybe it's a good thing he's not really showing his hand. I don't think he should show his hand too much. I'm kind of not down with a lot of the appointments going on while Trump is still in office. It kind of bugs me. And I know it has to be done, but it's just a way to loose lips sink ships. I don't know why the agricultural thing played out, but if people have a problem, I do believe that this is the kind of White House that you're actually going to be able to, if you have a solid argument and it's put together and not always tried out on Twitter. I mean, for us, it's fine. I'm just tired of politicians trying out their lives and getting their lives with a gang on Twitter. I'm done with that. It's like, y'all get paid way too much to have to like keep conferring with us and getting us all riled up before we have dinner at night. You are not being paid almost, $200,000 a year, some of you. So it's like,
Melvin is saying Biden's still white.
he is still white, but I also feel that there's a lot of like different people. It hasn't been confirmed if that's how it's going to play out or not. I mean, they were all touting Eric Holder for a while. That's not happened. Not going to happen. So I think that maybe certain things come out to just test the waters a little, and we'll see whatever the strategy may be. I mean, Susan Rice, that was definitely something he wanted to do, clearly, because there's a lot of mixed emotions about her too. However, she's a smart woman. She's very, very smart. But
that's why he made her a director of something and not a secretary of something.
Exactly.
So, he was very smart with the position that he put her in. And here's the other part of it too, is that he hasn't formally introduced these positions. So Susan Rice, he put her in a position that doesn't require her having to be voted on by the Senate.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I know that is he going to do Pete Buttigieg as an ambassador? Is that for real or not?
That's what I'm hearing. So
and why not? I think there were some, I think that, yes, there are times that we would like different people, but for whatever reason or not, I really liked Elizabeth Warren, but I get a sense she might be a little difficult to work with. That's just in a group of people. I think she's a person who just works better alone with her own agenda, own mission. I don't really.
The other thing too, the other thing too is that he's not wanting to pull any more people from the House or from the Senate.
Exactly, and I don't
because he doesn't want those seats to be taken over by Republicans.
Okay. Well, ladies, do you have time for one more quick one?
Yeah.
All right. Facebook being sued by a number of state governments and the Department of Justice.
Good. Because it has too much of a monopoly, and they should go after Amazon as well. The problem in our country is that capitalism is a great concept, but what we've also witnessed this year is that anybody can be bought when there's capitalism. I know people, you know what I mean? It's like nothing's really real. It's like you're buying friends, you're buying work, you're buying products, you're buying all of this. Facebook is no different. They have too much of a monopoly, and the allegiances that are being bought are sketchy at best. Even though we've expanded into a global world with our technology, they have to start to define parameters and boundaries for many of these tech companies and what they are doing, because they are traversing the world above and beyond borders. But there has to be some kind of regulations now with it, because what we see is we have some foreign actors who come in and people who do not have the best interest of the people of the nation. So yes, I think if they go in on this, they might stir up a lot of things and reveal, because it's Letitia James. They're obviously, she's been watching. It's very important to get in here and break these groups up. It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it is a problem when you have one company who sees, oh, another tech company came along. Oh, it's competing with me. Oh, I'm
I'll
just going
buy
to
them.
buy that company out.
Exactly.
And to keep doing it. What's Facebook going to buy next? TikTok? And they're
Right.
just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it till they're the only one. And the other side of it too is that Facebook has, for example, Mark Zuckerberg is so arrogant that he feels like he can fight this because he's got endless amounts of money,
Right.
and
And
so that
it's
should tell you
shown.
right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I mean, one thing I mentioned to you guys earlier was about the regional comprehensive economic partnership going through with the trade agreements between Indonesia, China, New Zealand, Japan, Australia, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, like Brunei, Laos, Cambodia. So basically, this is the biggest trade deal ever. And you're looking at 30% of the GDP, 26.2 trillion as of 2020. You're looking at 30% of the world's population at 2.2 billion people. And what's happening is that China's power and is just increasing, but the USA is having some kind of waning influence. So you look at someone like a Facebook who's sitting around, we already know China's asked block them from their world and their environment, what they can capture there. They can capture a little from these markets. But in the process, you look at someone like a Facebook and you have to go, any moves that they start making in those regions could actually compromise some of our sovereignty. But like, my feelings are, there has to be regulations. We know that Germany and different countries, France, have their own privacy laws, but Google's in court every week with Germany. They're establishing parameters, but America doesn't. And I think that's why we have had this biggest expose of total misinformation, disinformation, and tomfoolery that's been going on. So Aisha's right. It has to be broken up. And he has become quite a smug little so-and-so, Zuckerberg. I think the haircut finally got to him. Or that carving it into his head now. They create like a gully.
Jill, you were ready for tonight.
Just put
You
like
were
those
ready
little,
for tonight.
like that cap where there's like things air like fly around. Just stick it up there. Sorry, I
You were
mean,
ready. Well, let's call it. That's another staggers, or as another person says, daggers state of things.
yeah.
Featuring Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. Ladies, as always, an absolute pleasure having you both
Dr. Vibe.
share with us as always. And as always, we'd like to say, how can people get a hold of
Congratulations on your venture.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
Jill, how can people get a hold of you?
I am at Jill D. Jones, Twitter, and Jill Jones Music, Instagram, and Facebook, Jill Jones Music.
Aisha K. Staggers.
If I'm not in my new armchair, you can reach me at capital AISHA, capital STAGGERS on Twitter. Otherwise, I'm in my new armchair.
Excuse me?
Love it.
Your new armchair?
Yes, I
Are
sit
you
in
in
it,
it?
I sleep in it, I work in it.
Are
Wow.
you in it right now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought so because I said I haven't seen that chair before.
Yeah.
That looks good. That's a good, nice, nice, nice. Well, as always, like to thank all the people who caught this live. Melvin Lars says, enjoyed. Good stuff. We also have Real Django, Black Beauty. Who else? Dr. Tachu joined us. Hopefully we can get her in for the year ender. Would be really good to have Dr. Tachi on and others. Either whether you watched it live, watch on the replay, or listen to it on the replay, it's appreciated and not taken for granted. As always, I like to say my name, so they say, is Dr. Vibe. And I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. I co-host, produce, and I don't try to direct this madness. I don't want to do that. I don't want that responsibility. Producing and co-hosting is more than enough, or hosting is more than enough. If you want to find out more about this guy here, the best place to do that is to go to my website, the drvibeshow.com. Also, one other quick thing. If you're watching this or live on replay, I'm putting up a link here. If you would like to just fill out a quick survey and tell us what you think, and if any suggestions you'd like to have this conversation amplify more than it already is, I'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate that. So as always, I'd like to say, yes, it is Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show 2020 and 2018 Canadian Ethnic Media Association Award winner. Also, once a month, I host conversations for fathers and men that are co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central. It's the only monthly fathered conversation that is hosted, co-sponsored by not Dad Central, by Dove Men Care in the whole world. The only place that I'm blessed enough to be the face of that. And also, too, just announced this week, I'm now the board chair for a new initiative called the Global Food and Drink Initiative that I'll get into more at a later date. But basically, it's a multimedia nonprofit based in the U.S. Even though I'm in Canada, I'm the board chair in order to attack and address food insecurities. So that's it. Last thing we have to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll be back probably in a week or so. Never settle. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to watch and listen to these two outstanding ladies. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good.